Special guest for Citius Mag live from Eugene. I almost said Worlds, like it is day 3 and my brain is already mush. But we're joined now by Olympic silver medalist, 2-time world champion Trey Hardy, who's part of the NBC broadcast here in Eugene. I got thrown off almost because the credential says James Hardy, and I don't think as many people know that's your government name.
That's the government name. It's an easy screen. It's a nice screener to have when somebody like calls the house. Yeah. Like, can I speak to James? Like, nope. You know?
Down.
Yeah, exactly.
So being part of like the NBC team, what number trials, U.S. champs is this for you now?
Ooh, total, I'm not sure, but I got hurt in 16, didn't make the team, but came back and did the back half with NBC, and that was kind of like my first trials, and then did 21 to Tokyo, and then so this is my third trials as, you know, a broadcast team member, getting to like talk about all of the good stuff.
That transition, like it looks seamless. I think, like from you. I mean, it helps to have the experience of knowing all of the events.
Yeah.
But I mean, what have you sort of made of like the broadcast side of things?
Well, shoot, it helps to like know the people.
Yeah.
Like in 16, that was easy. That was so easy. I get to come in and give this like really detailed inside knowledge. Like, hey, that person loves, you know, yellow cake, but then that person likes to watch scary movies the night before. And it was like, those are my people, you know? And then in 21, COVID restrictions made it really, really difficult. And it was a little more analytical, but, you know, it wasn't like reluctance, but this wasn't like a dream. I didn't study journalism. I didn't have any aspirations of being on television or doing anything, but I love the fact that this is how I get to stay involved with the sport and be a steward or some kind of conduit for, at least on the field side, the like joy and awe of the spectacle of what these men and women are able to do. You know, like I think that gets lost a lot of times because field events are so technical and they're hyper technical, and we can become hypercritical of like everything they do. Like, that was good, but instead of just can I cuss? Like,
yeah.
Holy shit!
This
Like,
isn't NBC.
like, you know, instead of just being like, oh my God, I cannot believe what I just saw, and what is this guy gonna do now? You know, like that's what got me to want to try it. And then now, honestly, our team at NBC, like the people that I get to interact with, from like Otto and Sonia, Lee, Paul, and Kara, like it's just a weird fraternity. Yeah. You know, it's been awesome.
I mean, talk about that team where a lot of you, yourself, you know, Sonia, you're all coming as former athletes, and you're saying you didn't have a journalism background, you didn't have experience in that. Like, how have you been able to learn to make things seem so seamless?
Constantly having someone in your ear, like a producer.
Yeah.
I've done it twice now, I think, with the ESPN broadcast of like the New York City Marathon. I was like,
5,
this is
4,
it's
3.
I can't. Like, it's hard. It's very challenging.
So last night, I'm in the middle of like putting a button on something, and usually it's like, and we got 3 more rounds to go. It is nuts down here. Back to you, Lee. And then Lee's taking us out, reading a card or doing something. And I'm about to do that, and the producer's like, Trey, take us to break. And I'm like, and so, and there's a part, like half of me is like, yeah, I'm gonna take it to break, and then the other half is like, oh my God, what am I gonna say? You shrivel up, and I just blacked out, and I go, y'all come back now. I said like, y'all come back, and no, I said, y'all come back and see us. And everyone, so Paul Swangard's to my right, everyone's to my left, and I could feel everyone doing the slow head turn, like, did you just say that? And it was kind of awesome. So you still panic, you're gonna mess up sometimes, but our group is really special because we do have that experience. Not have been there, done that thing, but we do know, like, high pressure. We don't take things personally. Everyone's got the big boy pants on, and it really is like a good dynamic.
Yeah, well, it goes just to NBC's rich history of covering the Olympics, and just sort of like, there's always been within management and like the producer and all that stuff a great respect of how they present track and field, and I just did like the SI Sports Media podcast with Richard Deitch, and he was asking me just a ton of questions about like my thoughts on like how NBC covers, track. And I'm like, and especially at the Olympics, I'm like, it's always like a really awesome polished product because they know that these races and these broadcasts are things that people want to pull back, 20 years from now. And it's like, you want it to be this thing that stands the test of time. And so where there is sort of like that element of like the fans want fun, and like I love RG3 and what he brings to sort of like the ESPN side of things. At the same time, there's a balance to just sort of like, well, sometimes you like the traditional broadcast as well. So it's a great mix, I think, that has been assembled with the cast.
I agree. I agree 100%. I think there's a gray area between super objective professionalism and then just showing it as we see it and getting to call it as we see it. And I'm a big proponent of kind of that second screen thing and that adjacent like Manning cast version of things. I think that would do really well. I've talked to several people in management positions about having that job next year. Yeah. I think it's exciting, but again, you can go back. Tom Hammond kind of set that standard. You can go back and watch Usain Bolt's races, which really wasn't that long ago, but I think that he made the phrase "winning by daylight" an actual like household phrase, and they don't age. They just stay right there encapsulated, and that is it's a testament just to that the NBC ethos and what we try to accomplish during those races.
And so talk about the growth that NBC has had in kind of broadcasting the field events. You're already kind of like diving into your mindset of like getting in that excitement when, field events are going on. But I think back to like, I don't know, 2008, I was like super young, maybe watching the Olympics for the first time. And I don't know, I don't even remember many field events happening. But now at the Olympics, we have like separate feeds and, you're always like getting, pulled in to be able to do some commentary. Like how is NBC and the broadcast team kind of been able to really develop that growth and highlighting the field?
That's I think it's grown just as the appetite for media has grown. I think all of those different channels, you talked to Richard about it, where there's separate streams for different field events. There's different ways to consume a track meet, even on your phone. There's different providers. There's media rights up for grabs, right? And those little tiny meets that maybe weren't going to get coverage, now all of a sudden they're getting to sell their rights to these different providers. But NBC has grown along with that. With the advent of Peacock and the way that they manage that content, you can watch any Diamond League from the last several years right now. And it's right there for the taking, and you can watch whatever you want to watch, go back. And we really... I don't know. I don't want to take any credit for anything, but I think having Kara, myself, Sonia, and Otto as athletes, it's not. I don't know if we have more say than that we used to have, than people in our position used to have, but we fight for time, and we say this is what's important and this is what needs to be shown. And if we're going to get to Paris and have people know about X, we need to do it right now. And Paul Swangard and I, even in the middle of a broadcast now, and in Rio, I didn't do this at all. And in Tokyo, I did it just a little bit. But now, I've been doing it long enough. This is year number 8, Olympics number 3. I can put my foot down and say, we're going to show the freaking jump. We're going to show it live. Like, we've got to show it live. And I can stand tall in that request and say, and even we do this before. We're doing it in production meetings. Like, hey, this is a spot where we might need to fight for. Give us 20 seconds, or give us 15 seconds, or hey, do this, and this. And you do that enough times, and producers start to turn around and go, hey, we're going to give you this time and give you this time preemptively because we know something great's going to happen, and we can tell the story as it unfolds. We did that in the men's shot put last night, really, really well, I think.
Yeah, I guess like that's been a topic of conversation recently, of course, with just sort of like all the new things popping up in the sport. Like obviously Michael Johnson's Grand Slam Track League announces no field events. Yeah. The Ohanian meet in September, no field events as well. And the athletes are getting asked it by the media in the mix zone as to like, what are your sort of thoughts? The common thing that gets brought up, I think, Anderson, you've spoken to more of them, and correct me if I'm wrong, is just sort of like, well, they're like, it's not that the athletes aren't interesting, it's that the storytelling and the attention isn't there sort of on the broadcast. It's great to hear. You're the champion, like inside the broadcast that is like, fighting for that time. There's only so much that you can do. And so like, I guess like, from your side of things, what's what are the improvements that what the improvements are? It's just sort of like a track broadcast is just really hard to structure when there's just so many events you have to bounce from, time and a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there.
And no one understands what it's like to produce an event with multiple cameras and someone down and a steady cam watching all the field events and following people around. The thing is, like with a race, you can tell your stories and build it up. And then when you film the race, you're filming everyone at that one moment. Everyone gets that opportunity. But when you film a field event, you can tell a story and share background and make people interested. And then you're just going to show the one thing. You're just going to show Joe Kovacs. And then you're going to try to connect that guy a few minutes later to Ryan Krauser, who's throwing 15 minutes later. The drama, I believe that there is drama in a 1500 and a steeple and a 5K and a 10K. You can see it unfold, and you can see decisions being made. You can see men and women break and come to and rise to the challenge. You can see emotion. You can see all that stuff. That every single field event is like that. It's just spaced out over a longer period of time. And to me, there's a place for all of that. I'm not telling everybody to do this, but pretty fortunate, been able to go to a bunch of street meets in Europe. It is awesome. It's a beer garden, it's thousands of people, and it's pole vaulting, and it's men, like we'd be on a balcony right now having beers, watching guys jump over our own heads.
Right.
And it just is, it's a phenomenal piece of entertainment. And if I had all the time and the money in the world, that's probably what I'd be doing. I'd have my cape on and I'd be like, I'm going to save the field event.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see. Happy that everybody is, putting their money where their mouth is and they're doing something. And it remains to be seen whether or not this big, broad viewing audience that comes and watches track and field, you're now alienating
the field
half of it, which is field events.
Yeah.
And then with Ohanian's thing, you're now alienating
even more
the male half of the track. And that people still tune in, but it just is an interesting thing, and it's a starting place. There's more money in track and field right now than there ever has been. Can't complain.
What is your sort of gut reaction as to like where do the field eventers turn now? Like the Diamond League still is going to be like the top of what the regular season and the biggest opportunity to earn money until some other, millionaire out there comes out and says, all right, I'm going to pour money into exhibition events. And I agree with you, sort of like, no distance runner complains when it's like Mondo has his own pole vault meet, and that's like its own successful thing. And Red Bull pours a lot of money into that. And I think like for the field events, sometimes that's just what might have to happen is like every one of them just gets sectioned off into their own sort of exhibition events too.
It is, and then on the field event side too, it's the 1%ers. It's those, Mondo's got his own meet because he's Mondo. Freaking Duplantis. So that's kind of how it's always been. And to earn a living as a field eventer, you're going to Europe. You're getting those frequent flyer miles. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, do you think, because I spoke with Joe Kovacs yesterday, and he said that he's in talks to try and get the shot put into like strongman events, right? Almost like segmenting off, shot put. And some of the other field eventers as well were like, maybe we need to actually do our own thing away from track and field or, away from the sport as it is now. I mean, I don't know. Is that a good idea where we start to segment off, maybe come together for, USA's Olympics, but everything else is segmented?
It's not track and field then.
Yeah, it wouldn't be track and field unless it was here. But I heard what Joe said yesterday. It makes a ton of sense. Like the Highland Games, I think, has done a good job of that. I don't know what their growth numbers are, but never heard much from that section of the world until really the last 5 years. And it seems like I keep seeing it on my feed now, like guys stepping in and doing Highland Games stuff at those kinds of events. And I don't have the answers.
Yeah,
I wish I had all the answers.
That's the $30 million question,
and
right?
This is where I think about it for a little bit, and then I just resign myself to doing the best damn job I can with this moment. on a big, huge terrestrial network that has spent a lot of money to ensure that this is a great television show.
Yeah.
How do we knock this out of the park and present the best thing we can here? And I talk about this with Kara a bunch in our little special run club that we have to talk about things like this. And you're never going to make everyone happy.
No, never.
Of course not.
And I think people conflate an NBC show and who we're trying to reach and how we're trying to present the sport with the people on like the Let's Run message boards. Those are two completely different audiences that want two completely different things.
100%.
And so we try our best. My job as a field analyst is to bridge the gap between the people that know what it means to move your standards in the pole vault and know what it means to raise your grip 2 fingers, or they know what that means, versus your drunk aunt on the couch who's like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And you're like, listen, they're, like it's not that it's difficult, but it is, I think, it's a, what is it, Sisyphean? Sisyphus? Yeah, Sisyphean task. Like, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. Speaking to that drunk aunt on the couch, like what are some of your favorite, because I know we're also at this point, this is a crucial time to hook sort of like those new fans who are just like, all right, this track is on NBC. I want to learn about these new people. There are these new athletes, because the last time I tuned into track, it was, and I just remember Bolt, right? Like now there are these crop of athletes, a Kovacs, who like, I turned to someone in the stands yesterday who was asking a couple questions, like, who is that guy? And I was like, he's the strongest athlete in the world. Like, and
Yeah.
like there's no NFL player who's stronger than Joe Kovacs. And I threw it, and they're like, no way. And I was like, no, actually, like you look at the stats out there, that what he's putting up in the gym. What are some of your favorite ones that like would, impact that casual fan right away, that you're like, all right, if I throw this out there, that person's immediately going to be blown away?
I liked, I think I did it last year, and I don't remember how I presented it. It might have been at US Championships last year, and it was somebody running down the runway with a pole, and at takeoff, they are faster than any of, they do the NFL metrics of speed. Who was the fastest receiver or fastest player in the NFL last year? I looked it up, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, those guys are running way faster than the fastest NFL player with a pole vaulting, just to try to provide some kind of perspective. But that's the other thing about NBC. It is very, if you do not know for certain, you can't say it. I know Joe's probably stronger than everybody, but you can't confirm it. Like you can't say definitively, but you just say he's the most powerful guy in track. Like he's powerful, he's this, he's that. And you play the cards that you're dealt as best you can. I can very easily, if I get like a little bit into, not technicalities, but if I get into that part, I can go way too insider baseball.
Totally, yeah.
Instead of just being in awe and joyful about what the heck we just saw.
Yeah, because you want to speak track.
I want to speak track.
Without dumbing yourself down,
So I taught Snoop Dogg how to pole vault this morning.
Yeah.
And very quickly he told me to stop talking. Like, dog, hey, man, I'm not jumping, man. Like, he told me to like tone it down a little bit. I was like, my bad, man. Here, you just gotta land on your back. Just land on your back.
That's it.
Yeah, that was it.
All right, we got to hear more about Snoop. I mean, he's here.
Yeah.
He'll be on the NBC, I think, an alternate broadcast or something? What are the plans around Paris?
I think he'll help do some primetime stuff.
Okay.
So into the night, he's going to have some comments, I think, about a lot of different events, but he wanted to do some track and field stuff. And so he's here. We're getting a lot of B-roll, getting commentary. He raced Otto Bolden this morning.
34 for 200.
Yeah, and he was chilling.
Yeah, that's
impressive.
fast.
It's a good clip, but he was chilling. He could have gone much. I bet he could have backed it up and probably come through like a sub 70 lap, probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
I saw you quoted something like "better watch out" or something like that. I don't know, but
For and it's real, right? Like when people are just like, oh no, that's just like an NBC plug. But off camera before this, you're just like, he's in the truck, he's asking questions.
Yeah, he was super interested. He's like, don't kill me. And he was like, he learned what's his pole made out of. Like he was all about that event. Like I think it just is so far
the pole
out
vault's
of
his
people. Yeah,
event.
I don't know if it's his event, but he was like, this is crazy.
that seems like a weird first
people
event.
people do this. I'm like, yeah, just trust me. And then we put it up at Mondo's world record, and he's like, shut the fuck. Like he's like, no, they don't. But he's just a fan of sport, and I think he's a fan of the Olympics. And you talk about drawing in other fans and drawing in people and just attention and views and impressions and likes and all that stuff. That it's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What's the follow through? Because it's like, post Olympics, and it's a challenge. I feel like everyone fights this fight every 4 years where, they're watching the broadcast, they're going to be hooked, and it's like there's so much momentum, and then we just there are a couple diamond leagues afterwards that take place, but it's just like the viewership numbers aren't going to be Olympic level for that kind of stuff. So it's like, I guess we don't know what the solution is, but what's the encouragement, I guess, you have for those new fans who we hook during the Olympics? Because I think about this Netflix series that's going to come out, right? Like, it's from what I've seen so far, really good. You become a Noah Lyles, Sha'Carri Richardson, Fred Curley fan. And then after that, the follow-through is like, I want to watch these people race. This summer, it's easy. You tune into the Olympic broadcasts. All right, but season 2, like, the follow-through is going to have to try and watch the Diamond League on Flow Track, where there's a paywall and an obstacle to get there. Like, to hook a casual fan and have them fork over $30 a month, like, it's just not going to happen. So, like, the follow-through is, I think, the most important thing in the sport. And, like, the Olympics is a big one. It's just a huge challenge.
Yeah, but think about it in every sport has a season as well. So, like, I went back. I've watched quarterback twice.
Yeah.
I want to watch Patrick Mahomes play football, and I can't. There's a chasm that you have to bridge, and you can bridge it through content.
Yeah.
And I think that the Netflix series is going to do a fabulous job of that. I have heard, obviously, I've only talked to track people, but legitimately, it is a good show. Like, and it made people who were in the sport that really didn't care about that event really start to care about that event and those people. And I think that that's how you have to bridge that gap. And I think absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I think that it's good timing that it's hitting right here. They'll get the Olympics, and it's just like, hopefully fosters an addiction, and hopefully fosters this want to and caring about those kinds of athletes. And then there's a little trickle down, like, oh, he lost to this guy. Who's this guy? And who's that girl? And how do they do that? Oh, what was that? That's pole vault? What is pole vault? And that's how it can start. But I think I do it, but I want a wholesale fix, but I don't think it's a wholesale fix.
No, right.
I think it's a little bit here and there.
It's going to take a long time.
And I think internet helps a lot.
Yeah.
And there were some organizations before you guys that kind of started to provide that content to bridge the gap, and there was a huge appetite for it, and there's a huge appetite for all of this, whether we're in season or not.
Yeah.
And it just has to start somewhere, right? And it's just this little bit here and there, and it's never going to be a straight line, ups and downs, but everything in the last couple of years has been kind of great.
Yeah. And building off that, like, because there's like a level of, I don't want to say like responsibility, but like athletes also pushing themselves out and like promoting themselves so that they can bring in, other fans and stuff like that. And I mean, I know during your time, maybe Facebook, I think, was like the big thing back then, but we didn't have like, Twitter.
I was one of those first Facebook accounts.
Were you posting like your pole vaults on MySpace or whatever?
You couldn't even, I had MySpace. Yeah, I had MySpace.
But like now with athletes, obviously internet is at their disposal. What's like the responsibility for them to also kind of, push out, whether it's after...
Because it's hard to tell them, like, right? Like, your job is to train and be the best in the world. Oh, yeah, by the way, also, you need to hire a media team. It's a big ask. But some of the best, like Noah, Fred, Kenny, they know it's like, I have to do this. And, like, it's good for them, too. It shouldn't have to be, right?
Well, that's the first thing that I do, just me, myself. Like, when I hear someone has a soundbite of complaining about promotion or complaining about something, I'll go check their social and see how much they really care about it, because whether they like it or not, that's a part of it. You go check out any athlete's social media presence, any other sport, like household name or not, they are producing content, whether it's with a huge media team, an entourage, a crew, got a guy following them around with a camera. Like, I coach NFL guys, they have guys that follow them around with cameras and do edits every day. And whether it's that or just what I do, which is just like, hey, I'm at CDS. What's up? It's on you.
Yeah.
You're going to take this as far as you put the energy into it. And that's kind of the thing with social and that marketing aspect, is it is a lot of like one-to-one. Like, unless you're just trying to offend people every day, you're going to get engagement and you're going to grow. And as long as you're an interesting, worthwhile athlete to market, people will want to do stuff with you.
And I feel like it's a partnership too, where the athlete, if they promote themselves, they put out content, then whether it's an NBC or whether it's like a Netflix, because I think like at least in the Netflix trailer, we see clips of like Sha'Carri from her IG, right? That's like content she put out. They probably put it into the thing, right? So I feel like it's a partnership.
We use athletes' social media stuff so much in our broadcast, in our research, in our preparation, because it's the most intimate look into what they're really doing and how they really feel, and because you get press conference versions of people, like you get, hey Trey with NBC, how you feeling? I feel good. Like no, really, like what's up? You're like, everything's good, just excited to be here. You're like,
Press conference, everyone's lying. Someone's not doing
I know that your knee hurts. Like, but it's not all on athletes. It really is.
No, it shouldn't be.
But it is on them.
Yeah.
There is something that they should feel some like, burden's the wrong word, but they should want to do it too. Like, I don't care for social media that much. I'm older, but I can do it.
Yeah.
It's important.
We're growing up with it.
I'm doing it all week while I'm here. I didn't do much leading up to it, but I'm doing it all week while I'm here because it's important.
All right, I'm handing you a Hollywood budget. You get to produce your own Netflix series. The athletes agree to do it. What event are you picking? Obviously not the sprints. They already have their own
Women's
show.
heptathlon.
Really?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
We've got
the characters
biggest,
and the storylines are there.
Yeah, biggest, brightest upcoming star, Anna Hall. The ups and downs she's had this season would have been made for great television or great streaming. There are 7 facets of this thing. You got 7 episodes right there. You've got a country with a rich tradition. You've got, legends. You've got up and comers. But you've also got a really, really competitive international environment. And so you can invest in these characters and go see them take on the best in the world and live and die by those performances. I think that's where I'm putting my money.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like you have multiple episodes just by each event in the heptathlon already, or the decathlon, right? Like,
my address, if y'all want to start sending checks, is
Texas. One more quick thing, Trey, is just sort of like being in Austin. I think I've seen videos of you, Matt Choi, like together, working out. He's huge in the running space.
Yeah.
I've gone on a couple runs with him and been to Boston Marathon weekend, and I just see how many people stop that guy, for pictures and videos. That's the running space. The running space is totally different from the track and field space. We had Matt James, the guy from The Bachelor, come on by here, and he's one of those cases where it's like, oh, he's fully converted into being he's into running, but also a track and field fan, following the storylines. He's got his sort of favorite athletes. And how do you look and see some of these influencers in the running space? Matt's a great guy, and he's in our comment section and liking posts all the time. But it's there's also while we're throwing it out there, just sort of the impetus on the athletes and the people in the media. Some of these influencers, if we pull them in, they've got audiences that we can also sort of try and drag some of those eyeballs to track.
I think that's the lowest hanging fruit.
Totally. And give them tickets.
And what Matt's done such a good job, that's who he is. The dude on all the videos, that's Matt. He's authentic, he's genuine, he's excited, and he really did turn what he was doing into a business.
Yeah.
And it's not this burden on him. It really isn't. It's not, he doesn't spend all day doing this, and this. It's just all right, here's what I'm going to do. I've got this post, I got this post. It doesn't, I've talked to him about it many, many a time, and it doesn't take that much effort to really do it. He does a fantastic job now, but his best months of growth weren't this overproduced, overhyped thing.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, the lowest hanging fruit is to bring in the people that are popular in these adjacent spaces. But once people get a taste, I've been thinking this whole time not to reference any kind of drugs, but this is an addictive sport.
Yeah.
It really is. Witnessing this stuff in person is so much different than catching it through a screen.
Yeah.
It's so hard to put in perspective how big these throwers are, how fast Sha'Carri is, how high these guys pole vault. hard to do, but then you get them here that one time, and you're tapping into millions and millions of different people from an audience that didn't know they liked track, and now they're finding out that they do.
Yeah, even like this morning when we had our group run here, there was some runners here from New York who were part of my club team, and this is their first time ever at Hayward. They're distance runners, they're fans of the sport. But the way that they said it was watching a 10K in person is just so much more different than just on the broadcast. Because on a broadcast, you think, this thing's longer than an episode of The Office. And to see it in person, being able to just watch all the different changes, they're that was exhilarating. And so to your point, getting out here in person, even though the flights to Eugene are a little pricey, it's so worth it.
$70,000 for this week. Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah.
So, all right, Trey. Well, I feel like if we could go 2-3 more hours and we'd fix the sport, we'd have track and field in a healthy space. But I know you've got to go get ready for this broadcast, hang out with Snoop even more. I'm a little jealous of that.
We'll save it for another day.
And I'm sure we could pick this up, but it was great to just kind of hear your sort of perspective as to just sort of how we kind of stay together and also just continue to grow together. So thanks, Trey.
I'm here for it.